Anchorage has always been a city where darkness sits a little closer to the skin, where the cold doesn't just touch you, it studies you, remembers you, waits for you. And in the final days of September 2019, that darkness found a crack to seep through when a woman wandering the dim margins of downtown, a woman who had spent many nights walking between neon-lit gas stations and forgotten alleyways, found something that should never have reached human hands. A worn black backpack left in the passenger seat of a pickup truck belonging to a man whose face no one ever remembered, whose voice slipped through rooms without leaving an echo. A man who had lived in Alaska long enough to understand how to vanish in plain sight. Brian Stephen Smith. She didn't know his name then. All she saw was the backpack he forgot, abandoned like a shed skin, holding inside it a phone and a thin micro SD memory card, unmarked except for a trembling handwritten label. Homicide at Midtown Marriott. The words felt less like a description and more like a warning, as if the card itself carried the residue of something foul, something the night had tried to keep buried. She slipped the card into the phone, the glow of the screen lighting her face in the cold Anchorage dark, and the first video opened with the flicker of a dim hotel lamp inside the Town Place Suites de Marriott. That cheap yellowish light that makes everything look sickly and unreal. The camera was unsteady for a moment, then focused on a woman lying on the patterned green and brown bedspread, her face bruised and still, her name not yet known to the viewer, but soon to be burned into the memory of every detective who would watch the footage. Valerie Kassler. A man's voice. The kind of voice that didn't rise or fall, just slithered forward.
No, come on. No. We're going on for no. This is like half an hour at least now. We're going on half an hour now. Come on, please, man. Jesus. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Just do it. Just take it. Swallow it. Just do a nibble shot while we're here. Do like an angle, like an action shot. Okay, we did the nibble shot. You live. You die. You live. You die. You live. You die. Sadly, in my movies, everyone dies. I get the Oscar. Only me. Okay, so please just finish on time.
She claimed later that sleep refused to touch her that night, that she kept hearing the man's voice in the empty spaces of her room, in the hum of the radiator, in the murmurs of people passing beneath her window. And so at dawn, with her hands stiff from fear, she walked into the Anchorage Police Department, placed the phone on the counter like it was radioactive, and whispered to the officer on duty, "You need to see this." Detectives locked themselves into a viewing room and watched the footage, not speaking, not blinking. When the camera panned across the bedspread, one of them recognized it instantly. Town Place Suites, Midtown, a place where runaways, travelers, and the city's forgotten sometimes crossed paths with strangers who paid in cash. They checked the guest log for the night the timestamp indicated, and one name stood out: Brian Stephen Smith, staying in room 315. Surveillance cameras provided the rest of the puzzle pieces. Smith entering with a woman matching Valerie's height and build, the two walking down the hallway together, the door of room 315 closing behind them, and hours later, Smith leaving alone, calm, steady, not a hair out of place. The cameras did not show what happened inside the room, but the memory card had already shown enough. With this evidence forming a noose, detectives brought Smith in on October 8, 2019. He did not resist. He did not ask why. He sat down in the interrogation room like someone waiting for a dentist appointment. When they played the footage, he didn't cry, didn't flinch, didn't feign confusion. Instead, he leaned forward and narrated his own presence in the video with the cold precision of someone identifying objects in a photograph. "That's my arm, my hand, my stomach." When detectives asked if he knew the woman lying motionless in the footage, he looked at Valerie Kasler's face, frozen forever in that terrible state, and replied, "No, she was just there." His tone suggested not indifference, but absence, like something essential inside him had been hollowed out long before that night. But the interrogation didn't end with Valerie. Something shifted in the air, a slow ripple, when Smith exhaled and said, "There's another one." He spoke of a woman named Veronica Abochuk, someone who also lived along the frayed edges of society, someone he had taken into his home the year before, describing with eerie calm how she refused to shower, how he retrieved a pistol, how the sound of the gunshot seemed to barely register in his memory. He told detectives he left her along a quiet stretch of the Old Glen Highway, a place where wind carries secrets into the trees, and no one hears them again. Investigators went to the location he described and found her skull exactly where he said it would be, a single bullet hole confirming the truth of his story. It was as if confessing had released some pressure inside him, as if he had carried these memories not with guilt, but with annoyance, like burdens he wanted to set down. In the courtroom, the air felt heavy, as though the walls themselves had absorbed the dread of the case. Prosecutors described Smith as a predator who moved through Anchorage unseen, targeting women who society already ignored, women whose disappearances rarely sparked headlines, women who lived in the shadows where he liked to hunt. They presented the videos from the memory card, not in full, but enough to chill everyone present. The voice, the movements, the sickening calm. Jurors turned pale. Some averted their eyes. Even seasoned officers sat rigid, jaws clenched. The prosecution laid out the timeline with brutal precision. Valerie Kasler's entrance into the hotel, the hours recorded on Smith's room key card, the timestamps on the videos, the surveillance footage confirming she never walked out. Everything tightened around Smith like an invisible chain. It took the jury only 2 hours to convict him on all counts. On July 12, 2024, the judge sentenced Smith to 226 years in prison, a number so vast it felt less like a sentence and more like the ceiling of a crypt. Smith showed no struggle, no anger, no fear. Only the faint, unreadable expression of a man who had rehearsed his emptiness for years. And yet, for all his attempts to bury the truth, to fold his crimes into the quiet spaces of Anchorage's night, he was undone by the smallest of objects, a memory card no bigger than a fingernail, slipping from his possession into the hands of someone who refused to look away. It was that tiny fragment of plastic and metal, that accidental witness, that ensured Valerie Kasler's story did not fade into the same shadows Brian Stephen Smith stalked, but instead rose into the light, cold and terrible, demanding to be heard.